It is 6:34, and our in-depth coverage continues this morning. Joining us live in studio, Rhode Island Congressman David Cicilline. And Congressman, we want to start with obviously the latest in Florida. You no doubt watching it very closely. Have you been able to talk to any of your colleagues in Florida yet?
Yes, I've been in touch with several of my Florida colleagues. You know, they're obviously bracing for the recovery. It's very dangerous, as your coverage has shown, and I think our thoughts and prayers are with the people both in Texas and in Florida.
What are you hearing from your colleagues specifically right now? I know we're dealing with widespread power outages. What specifically are you hearing?
Very dangerous winds, and always, you know, particular challenges for the people who stayed in their homes that were part of the evacuation zone, which is always challenging to get back in there. So I think that continues to be a problem.
One of the headlines that came out of Harvey and also in the days before Irma struck Florida is, calling on the Federal Trade Commission to crack down on price gouging. Have you seen any sort of result from that at all?
Yeah, we wrote to the Federal Trade Commission. It was a bipartisan letter, members of the Judiciary Committee, because there were reports that people were seeing a big spike in fuel and other emergency supplies, even travel. So we wanted to be sure that the FTC was paying close attention to this and that consumers were not being gouged with very high prices for products that they needed to prepare for or get through this hurricane.
And hopefully we see that to continue to stabilize this week, obviously, with Irma. All right.
Absolutely.
So shifting gears a little bit to talk about DACA, obviously a vocal critic of the president's decision to end the program protecting people, brought into the country illegally as children from deportation. What is the latest on that? Well,
I mean, I think the good news is this is a program is widely supported by the American people. These are young people who came as infants, some of them as very young children, who are working, studying, serving in our military, contributing to our communities. There are about 800,000 young people in this group, several thousand right here in Rhode Island. They're making incredible contributions. They're American in every way but a piece of paper. And the idea that many of them have never been back to the country they were born in, some of them don't even speak the language. So the notion of sending these wonderfully talented young people who are contributing so much back to another country is just wrong and un-American. I think we're going to continue to work really hard to pass the DREAM Act, which is a permanent fix to this. I'm a co-sponsor of that piece of legislation. I think there's a lot of momentum, and we're going to have to insist before we leave at the end of this year that we pass the DREAM Act.
So it's hard to believe, but it's been 16 years since 9/11. This morning we wake up and we deliver the date, September 11th. Obviously, it's a date that's going to stick with us for a long time to come. Bring us back to that day. You were a local legislator at that point. Where were you, and what are you hoping people do 16 years later to mark the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone remembers exactly where they were when they saw that on the television. I was home getting ready for work, and they thought first, oh, some plane flew into a building with some sort of accident, and then within a short period of time I realized that we were under attack. It was a very scary time for the country. We obviously lost more than 3,000 Americans. We saw the incredible bravery and heroism of our first responders who ran into these buildings and rescued people. And we also saw, the just extraordinary response of ordinary Americans who all came together as a country. So we mark today and remember particularly the Rhode Islanders we lost. But really, it's a day that really changed the world and changed our kind of attitude and our responsibility to fighting terror and recognizing we're not immune from it, and we've been in that fight ever since.
And obviously we're having our local remembrance ceremony at Rhode Island State Police headquarters, and we'll have coverage of that throughout the day. Great. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll send things over back to Pat.